Hey guys, my name is Shirley and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be doing a continuation of this whole property investing series that I've started with you guys. If you have missed the previous videos, make sure to click somewhere here or I'll link the playlist to the videos that I've released thus far. So in the previous video that I released in this series, I broke down for you guys exactly how much it cost me. And if you go back to that video, you will know that it cost me between 62 to 65,000 Australian dollars to purchase my first property. So I just thought I'd break down for you guys exactly how I managed to, save all that money and essentially purchase my first property. I guess the first part of my savings journey was first really deciding that I wanted to purchase the property in the first place. So personally, I am a very goal-oriented person. If I do not have a goal in my life, then things are just a mess. So for me, it was very important to first really tell myself that I really want to do this. For as long as I can remember, I'd always told myself, I want to save for a house, I want to save for a house. But I think I'd just passively been saying it. But last year, which is 2020, the start of last year, I think that's when I really got serious. And I'm like, you know what, Shirley, you really want to buy a house, let's actually do this. So I think for any goal that you have, whether you're saving for a house deposit or to buy a car or to move out or to travel or whatever that is, I think the first thing is really have a clear goal, really believe in yourself, really believe that you really want this. And once that's done, then you can start creating a game plan. So for me, the first step of that game plan was first looking at my cash flow. So when it comes to savings, there's essentially two main ways that you can increase your savings. Either you increase your income or you reduce your expenses. So for me, before I even, started really getting serious about savings, I had to kind of do a check-in with myself and really see exactly where I was at financially. Where is my money coming in from and where is it going? So there's one main resource that I use to track this, but you don't have to do it this way. You can just set up your own spreadsheet if you want. But for me personally, I used Glenn James' spending plan. And if you don't know who Glenn James is, he's like an ex-financial advisor. He runs the My Millennial Money podcast. So he has this spending plan that he's released where essentially you put in how much you make in a week or fortnight or monthly or however often you're paid. It multiplies it by 12, so it tells you your annual income. And then it also does the same thing with your expenses. So it'll prompt you to put in literally all the expenses that you have. So how much do you spend on coffee in a week? How much do you spend on groceries? How much do you spend on your car rego and your mobile phone bill? On literally everything. So I put in all the expenses that I had, it multiplied it by 12, and then essentially that allowed me to get a bird's eye view of exactly in a year's time, how much money do I bring in and where is my money going? And that was a really powerful exercise for me because I think sometimes, or what I hadn't realized at that point in time, is I had so many little expenses that in isolation they didn't seem like a big deal, but when I multiplied it by 12, I was like, oh my goodness, this is actually adding up to being a lot of things. So for instance, my subscriptions, I had quite a number of subscriptions. I had Netflix, I had Amazon, I had my Audible subscription. In their own, they're only like what, $12 a month, $15 a month. But then once I added them all up and then multiplied it by 12, it essentially ended up being thousands. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm spending this much on subscriptions. So then what I had to do is I had to look at all my subscriptions as a whole, decide which ones I wanted to keep and decide which ones I wanted to cancel. And in doing that exercise, it might be canceling just one subscription for 1 month, but when you multiply that by 12 and when you do that with all the other areas of your life, it's an exercise that took me like a few hours to do, but I'm so grateful that I did because it allowed me to pick areas of my life that weren't so important, and then I cut that out, and just in that little exercise I literally saved thousands. So I feel like before you even go too far on your journey, it's so important to take stock of exactly where your financial situation is at the present time, because when you do that, you really get a bird's eye view of exactly where your money is going. You get a bird's eye view of things in your life that you can cut out, and trust me, you will not realize how much you're spending on certain things until you actually do a stock take. Another great way to actually do a stock take is print out your bank statements. I actually did this exercise and I really like to do it at least every quarter or the likes. Print out my bank statements for the previous month or the previous 2 months. Highlight in a different color how much I spent on food. Highlight how much I spent on bills, and then add up the totals. You'll be very surprised by how much you think you've spent on food or on certain activities relative to what your bank statements are actually telling you. So following on from that, another thing that really helped me was changing my lifestyle. I wouldn't say I lived a very lavish lush lifestyle. I wasn't somebody who went out that much anyway, so it wasn't like I was living a very lush lifestyle, but I decided that I have a goal that's very important to me, and in order to reach that goal there are certain lifestyle changes that I needed to make. And some of these lifestyle changes, they were very minor things, simple things like, you know, getting my nails done. I used to constantly be at the nail salon every 2 weeks or so getting my nails done, and then I realized, you know what, I can sacrifice getting my nails done for the next, you know, 6 to 12 months so that I can put that money elsewhere. Or simple things like reducing the frequency of times that I'd go out with friends and eat out. I'm not saying cut out your social life, have no social life. No, that's not what I did at all. But I kind of made everyone who was close to me aware of the goal that I had. So I think it's very important, you know, to have a look at your lifestyle, see are there certain things that you're willing to let go of, certain things that you're willing to sacrifice. Also is equally important to let the people around you know of your goals. And you know, a lot of the time people will be very understanding. You'll be surprised, you know, you might say, oh my gosh, you guys, I don't think I can afford to go out a 4th time this month. And you might be surprised by other people who might be in the same boat, but no one just wants to raise their voice. So yeah, that's just something that really helped me out quite a fair bit. Another thing that really helped me out a lot was making sure that I had no debt and I stayed out of debt. So personally, I've been quite lucky in terms of that in my life. I haven't really gotten myself in a lot of consumer debt. Like I haven't taken out a $10,000 credit card. I didn't really have much debt at all. So I didn't have things like Afterpay or ZipPay, buy now, pay later options, because I knew myself from 2019, I knew myself that if I have Afterpay, I will always use it, and it fools me into believing that an item costs less than it actually does. And even in terms of a credit card, so I believe last year I think I had a credit card that was like $2,000 on it. It wasn't like a big credit card. It was just like, oh, I thought I needed a credit card to, you know, improve my credit score. But I soon later learned that in Australia, our credit score system is very different to the US system. So a lot of people think that you absolutely need a credit card in order to get a mortgage, but that isn't necessarily the truth. So for me, I actually got rid of that credit card because I found myself when I was going to the shops or when I was buying my groceries, if I was paying for something with my credit card, I tended to spend way more than if I was to pay something with my debit card. So for me, a credit card, I was like, you know what? I don't need it. If I want to buy something, I'll buy something cash. If I can't afford to buy something cash, then that means I don't have the money to buy that item, and that means I can wait to buy it a later time. And I also thought to myself, hey, I'm about to take out a mortgage. When I take out a mortgage, it means every single month the bank is going to be taking X amount of money from my pay or from my bank account. And for me, I just didn't like the idea of having numerous debts. When I get paid, I like my money to stay with me. I don't like the feeling of getting paid, feeling like my bank account is just a pit stop for money before it gets taken away. So I thought to myself, I don't want to be in a situation where after I get paid, I'm getting money taken out by the bank for my mortgage, I'm getting money taken out by Afterpay to pay for Lululemon leggings that I bought, I'm getting money taken away from my credit card. I just didn't like the idea of having numerous debts in addition to a mortgage. So for me, yeah, it was very, very important to make sure that I didn't have any debt and I stayed out of debt. But if you are in a place where you do have debt, I feel like debt is a thing that needs its own topic because it's such a big topic. But if you are in a place where you do have debt, it doesn't mean that you can't reach your saving goals. There's so many stories of people with crazy amounts of dollars of debts, but they really turn their lives around and start achieving some amazing goals. Don't let your current debt, if you have any, deflate you. But if you don't have any debt, try to stay out of debt. Trust me, it'll go a long way. Another thing that I did to hit my savings goals was I tracked absolutely everything. And tracking has so many benefits because, again, we are such bad judges of character when it comes to where we think our money is going. We think that we are doing better than what we actually are, but when we actually look at our statements and look at the true picture of things, there's usually a big disconnect between what's in our minds and what our bank statements are actually telling us. So anytime I would get paid, I'd obviously transfer money into my savings account. I had a spreadsheet that actually tracked how much I put away each month in terms of my savings and how much they were growing. And that was such a huge source of inspiration to be able to look back over the months and say, oh my goodness, I started with 5k and now I'm at 35 grand. Seeing the money grow over time on my little spreadsheet and seeing how much I put away each month really motivated me. So in February, let's say I put away $1,000, I'd be prompted in March to put away $1,100 or in June to put away $2,000 because I liked seeing myself put more away and seeing that money grow. Another thing that was really good, but this was more a few years ago, was tracking tracking my debt status as well. So anytime that I'd pay my afterpay off, or anytime I'd pay my credit card off, tracking how much I put away and what my debt is now looking at, it was such a satisfying feeling seeing maybe your debt go from $2,000 to now going to $1,500 and then officially to zero. It was such a feel-good feeling. So tracking things is such a powerful form of motivation. So I really do recommend it. Another thing that really helped me out a lot was surrounding myself with people that had the same mindset as me, and really listening to podcasts and books and watching videos on personal finance and, you know, savings and things like that. As much as we may try to deny it, human nature, we are so easily influenced by our surroundings. If you surround yourself with people who constantly want to spend, you'll more likely turn into somebody or become somebody who's constantly spending. But if you surround yourself with people that are talking about, you know, reaching exceptional money goals, or, you know, savings, or being frugal in certain ways, you will subconsciously start living that lifestyle as well. So for me, it was so important to surround myself with that type of community. Now, I'm not saying cut your friends off or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. But for me, the community that I created for myself was essentially an online community. What I did is I started listening to more podcasts and reading more books on personal finance, how to buy a house, how to save for a deposit, and all those types of things. And every time that I would listen to something, I was learning. So for me, it was so important to surround myself with the resources that pushed me closer to my goals rather than took me away from them. Listening to great podcasts like the She's on the Money podcast, the My Millennial podcast, the Sugar Mama podcast, those were some podcasts that I really loved and made such a big difference. If I'd constantly been following people online that were posting luxury goods or constantly posting, you know, fashion things and buying things, I definitely don't think then I would have hit my savings goals, because I would be so engrossed in that world that would subconsciously start shaping my behavior and my actions as well. Maybe you're not as malleable as I am, but for me personally, I know the things that I surround myself with really do make a big impact in terms of the subconscious actions that I do take. So those are essentially the main things that helped me essentially save up more than 45 grand to contribute to the purchase of my first property. I am thinking of doing a part 2 to this video where I speak more about the tangible and actual practical steps that I took. I feel like the points that I've brought up in this video are more high level, more strategic, more mindset level, but I want to take it down a notch and really dig into, you know, how I set up my bank accounts, like the more nitty gritty and actual practical side of things. If that's a video that you're interested, definitely let me know in the comment section and I would be happy to record that video for you. If you have any other savings tips that you have, make sure to comment it down below. It might help somebody who's also on their savings journey. But anyway, thank you guys so much for giving me your time today. I really appreciate that. And with all that being said and done, dream big, keep well, and hustle hard. I'll catch you again in the next one. Bye.